أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to Tuesday's class. Jazakumullah to all those students who've arrived on time and early. Jazakumullah. If I may have a student to the mic to read the opening dua, please.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Our
Walaikum
first student is A1236.
A1. Walaikum salam, darling. How are you?
Good.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, sweetheart. So we are on Tuesday's class. So it's this dua here. Are you able to read that by yourself? Oh, have we lost that student? Yeah, I think we've just lost that student. If I may have another.
Okay, he is in the class.
Oh, okay, he's back. Assalamu alaikum, darling.
Like
Walaikum salam, darling. Okay, so I've just highlighted it in yellow. Would you be able to read that by yourself?
okay.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Don't forget the Dawood and the Tasmiyah. Take your time. Make sure your pronunciation is just spot on, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
أعوذ بالله الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
MashaAllah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
MashaAllah. Very, very nice. The effort that you put in there was very, very nice. Sweetheart, repeat one more time with me, okay? أعوذ بالله
أعوذ بالله
من الشيطان
من الشيطان
الرجيم.
الرجيم
MashaAllah. بسم الله
بسم الله
الرحمن
الرحمن
الرحيم.
الرحيم
الرحيم.
الرحيم.
Okay, don't rush through the r, okay? Because there's a tashdid of the ra. Nirrahim.
الرحيم.
Beautiful, mashallah. Rabbi,
ربي
Rabbi,
ربي
zidni,
زدني
Rabbi zidni.
ربي زدني
Okay, that's fine.
ربي زدني
Ilma.
علما.
Mashallah, very nice. Sweetheart, sometimes your tongue can't keep up with what your eyes are seeing. And you just have to take a little bit of time, okay? And there's nothing wrong with taking your time, okay? Don't rush through. Sometimes you just have to take a little bit longer to make the sounds. But the more effort we put in at this stage, it becomes second nature after a while, okay? So don't worry if it takes you time, okay? We all learn at different states, at different rates. And you could tell the effort you were putting in there. MashaAllah, very, very nice. The English translation at the bottom is all, darling.
Oh my Lord, expects me in trees, me in knowledge, Taha.
Well done, mashallah. Yeah, go on. Okay, yes, it's Toha
Taha
115.
150.
Okay, okay,
Excuse me,
yes, sweetheart.
Tina, that's my name.
Your name?
Yeah,
What would you like to tell me about your name, darling?
my name is Taha.
Oh, mashallah, very, very nice. So you were just the right person to read this dua today, weren't you?
Yeah,
Yes, alhamdulillah. Okay, sweetheart, very, very nice attempt. Very, very nice voice. Hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of the class as well, okay? Jazakumullah, Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Okay, what a lovely way to start the class. Okay then, so today, let me tell you about an announcement that you've just seen on the screen. This Friday, we are having a concluding session. Very final session is this Friday. and the timings and the IDs and the passwords, they're all different. So let me just talk you through them, okay? This Friday, the 21st of December, G1 and G2, which is the other class, will combine and we'll have a joint class that starts at 6:30. Okay, 6:30 is the start time. And the meeting ID is this one here. Okay, so it's different to the one that we've normally had. And there is a password. This is the password, uppercase K. Okay, now we'll make this PDF available throughout the week. But if you could take a note of the details, and we would like you to make sure that you keep these details to yourselves. Only students and their parents are invited into the concluding session. It'll be quite a large class because G2 students will be combining. So there physically won't be enough space for this conferencing platform to cope if you told lots and lots of people about it, okay? And it should be an enjoyable concluding session. We have Atfal from one of the G2 students. There will be a Nazm, inshallah, from one of the G1 students, a reading of a hadith, as well as some reports by the in-charges. And then we have a guest speaker who will also be speaking about the roles of the Quran in young MDs' lives. So it'll be an interesting and informative affair. So we look forward to seeing you on Friday, but take a note of these details, okay? Okay, so today we are going to have a presentation, and I'll start that in a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to deliver it in 4 separate presentations, because when we do PowerPoint, often the system plays up, and I really didn't want my presentation to go a little bit awry. So we're going to have one long presentation, but it'll be 4 shorter presentations. Okay, so if your parents are not sitting with you, it would be very nice if they came along and sat with you, because some of the things I'm going to be talking about, some of you will know about, some of you won't know about, and inshallah the parents also will learn something. But in any case, the parents should be sitting with you. Okay, so if they're not there, if you can call them, okay? Okay. So let me just start. Okay, so today's presentation is on the textual divisions of the Holy Quran. In other words, how the Quran is divided up into smaller reading sections. The text, or another way of saying this, is the words of the Holy Quran, has been divided in 7 different ways. And in this presentation, we are going to look at 3 of those divisions: al-juz, al-hizb, al-ruba, which is Arabic for the part, the half, the quarter. Okay, so before I tell you about how Quran is divided up, let me just explain why it is divided up. Simply, these divisions are designed, amongst other reasons, to make it easy for people to organize their time, to help them make Quran reading part of their daily routine. Let me explain a little bit. Every one of us leads very busy lives, and it's easy to do all the things that we can see need to be done. Things like getting ready for school, being at school, after school clubs, meals, homework, Atfal classes, Nasirat classes, offering your namaz, lots of other things like tidying your room, visiting relatives. All those things are important. We have to do them. Doing these things keeps us in touch with our studies and with people who are important to us. These things help us get further in our life. Reading Quran is just as important. sometimes, often in fact, we get so busy that we forget we have to keep in touch with Allah and to listen to Him also. Okay, if you just bear with me. Okay, so yes, sometimes we get so busy that we forget that we have to keep in touch with Allah and to listen to Him also. And how do we listen to Allah? Well, by reading His words, which means that we have to read the Quran Majid. Reading the Quran Majid keeps us in touch with Allah and helps us get on in life, just like going to school helps us get on with our studies. It's very important we go to school. It's very important we read Quran. Both things are important. You shouldn't neglect either of them. Okay, these divisions, Al-Juz, Al-Hizb, Al-Ruba, these divisions help people to make a timetable so that they can keep on top of their Quran reading. Okay, so since we are going to learn about some ways that the Quran is divided up, let's take a look at a Quran. Seeing what I'm going to be talking about should help you, inshallah, understand better. Here is an online version of the Quran. This is the front. When you open it up, this is what the first 2 pages look like in this Quran. In most Qurans, the first 2 pages usually look a bit different to all the others. Notice the page numbers here and here. They're written in Arabic. Okay, so let's put those back and let's look at another couple of pages. Here are 2 other pages from this Quran. They look a different style to the first 2 pages. This is the style of the rest of this Quran. Again, notice the numbers are not in English. Also notice that the pages are running from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. Okay, so let's put those pages back. And then let's have a look at another 2 pages. Now there's lots of information here on the pages, and there's something I want to point out to you, that the words that you are seeing inside the black lines that are being drawn at the moment, the words inside those black lines are the words of Allah. Everything outside is information put in by people. This information is useful to us as we read. It helps us be aware of where we are in the Quran and gives us useful information. But do understand that everything outside of the black lines is man-made information. Okay. So let's put those 2 pages back, and let me now say that I've shown you 6 pages from this Quran. There are many pages, about 600 in fact, and those pages are grouped together into 30 parts. And that's the first way of dividing the Quran up that I'm going to talk to you about in the next section of this presentation. Okay, so now you'll just have to bear with me, okay? Because I have to now break up this presentation and start the next section. Okay, so this is where the last section just finished on this page, okay? Now what we're going to do is take a look at how the Quran has been divided into parts. Okay, the Quran has been divided into parts. In Arabic, a part is known as... Okay, so if you just bear with me, this is what PowerPoint tends to do. I'll just have to start this again. Okay, so in Arabic, a part is known as al-juz. Parts or juz is one of the 7 ways you can divide up the text of the Quran. What you see here is all the pages of the Quran grouped up into 30 parts. Each part has lots of pages, but you can't see them all here. There isn't enough room on the screen to show all of them. So all you can see here is the very first page of each part. Okay, so we do have the cover at the front. Let's just move it so you can see what's behind. Okay, so if you just bear with me now. Okay, so apologies for that. Okay, so let me now bring this page a bit bigger so you can see. Now, I don't know if you can remember, but this page is one that I showed you in the last section. It's the first page of part 1 of the Quran. The very first part of the Quran starts with these words here. Okay? Okay, so let's just put that page back where it was. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take 4 of these pages and we're going to use them to demonstrate a few things. Now, these pages are the first pages of part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. I want you to look at the page numbers that these parts start at. Part 1 starts at page 2 in this Quran. Part 2, the next part, starts at page 22. The next part, part 3, starts at page 42. And part 4 in this Quran starts at page 62. Each of these parts in this Quran are all about 20 pages long. Okay, apologies, PowerPoint is playing up. So you just have to bear with me whilst I catch up. Okay. All the parts in this Quran are about the same length. They're about 20 pages. They are all roughly equal in size. In fact, all of the 30 parts. Okay. Apologies for this. Okay, so all the parts are about the same size. In this Gramji, they're all about 20 pages long. Okay, you won't forget that they're about 20 pages long because I keep getting stuck at the same point in this presentation. Okay, so I'll skip this slide in a moment, but let me just tell you that not only are these 4 parts all the same size, all 30 parts in the Quran Majid are about the same size. And the other thing that I wanted you to notice was that the numbers, they're not written in English in this Quran Majid. They're in Arabic. Now, these days, a lot of us will access the Quran Majid online. Certainly, that's how I do it. I go on my iPad or go on my computer and I can just type in chapter number, whichever, 24, verse number 31, and the screen comes up. I look at it on my phone, I look at it on my iPad, I go on my computer. I really need to go to a hard copy. And of course, I just type in English, I type the numbers in. But most hard copies still use the Arabic numbers. Now, if you don't know the Arabic numbers or you're not used to them, it's very easy to find, if you Google it, a table where the Arabic numbers are written next to the English numbers. Get to know what the Arabic numbers are, okay? Practice writing them down, practice looking at them and recognizing them. It will really help you. Okay, so let's just move on from this slide and then let's hope that it doesn't play up anymore. Okay, so those 4 pages that I took out and I was just showing you, okay, I've put them back in this Grammar Jeed now, okay, and I want to tell you that this one Quran has been divided into 30 parts. Now, so far, I've been referring to them with numbers, and I've been saying part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. But the question is, do the parts have names? And the answer is simply yes. The correct way of referring to the parts is by their names. And I'll demonstrate that by pulling some more pages to show you. And we'll choose these pages that I'm just enlarging here. Okay, so we can call a part by its number. The number depends on its position inside the Quran. The first part is part 1 and the very last part is part 30. This first page here is the very first page of part 1. This is the very first page of part 2, the start of part 3, the beginning of part 4, again the very first page of part 5, and part 30, the very first page of part 30. Now, remember, okay, some days technology just does not want to play. I'll give it one more shot. Okay. Okay, now I want you to remember that these are only the first pages of each part that I'm showing you here, okay? Now, part in English is juz in Arabic. So we could say, instead of parts, we could say juz. So we could say these are the first pages of juz 1, juz 2, juz 3, and so on. Okay? Juz is just the Arabic for part. Okay, so let me now take you to this page here, and I would like you to look at this word here. It reads sayaqul. Part 2 is also known as juz sayaqul, and that's because the first word in this part is sayaqul. The first word, sometimes the first 2 words of a part, are what give that part its name. Let's put that page back and let me show you another example, and let me pull this particular page forward. And I'd like you to look here at this. The first words, they read amma yatasa'alun. Part 30 is also known as Juz Amma because the first word, sometimes the first two words of a part are what give the part its name. And with this part, the first word happens to be Amma. So it's Juz Amma. Okay, so let's put this back. And now that you've seen that the first words of each part are what give that part its name, you can see that we could, instead of saying part 1 or Juz 1, we could use its Arabic name. So let's just declutter this page by wiping off that information, and let's see what the Arabic names for these particular parts is. This here is known as Juz Alif Lam Mim. Why? Because the first words there are Alif Lam Mim. This is Juz Sayaqul because the first words there, the first word there is Sayaqul. This here is Juz Tilka Rusul. Why? Because my PowerPoint has decided to now get stuck again. Okay, so you just have to bear with me. I just have to go through. So Juz Alif Lam Mim, Juz Sayaqul, Juz Tilka Rusul, Juz Lan Tanalu, Juz Wal Muhsanat, and Juz Amma. Why? Because, as you can see, the first words that are circled in red, those are the words that are giving those parts their name. Okay, so whilst we are here, I just want to say that parts are named using the first two words of that part, but using the Arabic name is more appropriate, okay? It's a bit like, I don't know, if you've got 4 children, you wouldn't say child 1, child 2, child 3. They'd have names. The parts themselves have names, but in this day and age where we have so much online stuff, referring to them by number becomes a lot easier when you're accessing. Okay, so let me just clear off some of this information because I want to draw your attention to something else whilst I'm here. Just take a look at the top of the pages in the margin area. Okay, and now let me just take you to this particular page just to bring something to your attention. Now, I want to remind you, everything inside the black line, all the words that are inside that black line are the words of Allah. Everything outside is information put there by people, okay? It's important that you understand that. Okay, so let's just take that black line away and get back to the page as it was. And let's just look at this, okay? That's Sayaqul, because that's the name of this part. Part 2 is known as Juz Sayaqul, and written on the top of the page, outside of the black box, is the name of the part. All pages of part 2 will show the same name, Sayaqul, at the top in the margin area. Okay, so let's put that back and let's take a look at this one here. Again, let's just focus on this here, what's written at the top. Part 4 has its name written at the top in the margin. All pages of part 4 will carry this same name in the top margin. This means that you can find out which part you are in by looking at the top of the page in the margin area. Okay? As a suggested exercise later on tonight, what you could do is open up the Quran at any page and see if you can work out which part that page is on. You'll need your mum and dad to sit with you to give you a hand, okay? But that'd be quite an interesting thing for you to do. Okay, so let's put that back. And let's go back to the beginning where it was sitting with the Quran. Okay, so that's about as much information that I need to give you about parts, okay? But I want to show you a couple of other things. Here are all 30 parts by the names by which they are known. They're written in Arabic. You should try and learn these names. You'll have to get your mum or dad to help you pronounce them, okay? See if you could try and memorize them. There's 30 parts. If you try to learn one a day, in a month, you'd learn all of them. And we've got Christmas school break coming up, and so you could maybe learn 2 or 3 at a time. Maybe by the time you go back to school, you might have learned all the names of the parts. Okay, so try and learn them. And here's something else that you can do. Try writing them out in the Arabic. Again, you'd have to practice at that, and your parents will probably have to help you. But sometimes writing something out helps you to remember what you've written, and therefore it can help you learn the word that you're writing. And one other thing, I'm just going to take 3 of these and put the information about them together. That's Juz Alif Lam Mim. It's part 1 or Juz 1. This is Juz Wal Muhsanat, part 5 or Juz 5. Juz Amma, part 30 and Juz 30. Those are the names that are associated with those parts. What you could do is write the same sort of information for all 30 parts. Okay, and again, as I say, if you just did one a day, okay, in a month, you'll be able to get on top of all of them, inshallah. Okay, so try and make similar sort of diagrams at home so that you can learn the names of the parts, the numbers of those parts, and then you'll be able to get an idea as to where in the Quran Majid those parts sit. You can find a full listing of all the names of the parts in your notes. If you look at lesson 4, which is page 31 of your notes, you'll find this page, and it has all of the part names written in order, starting from the top, right to left, and working down the page, okay? They're all in order. So mums and dads will have to sit with you and help, okay? But lesson 4 and page 31 is where you'll find the full list. Okay, so now that just about covers all that I wanted to show you about how Quran is divided into 30 parts. And in the next section of the presentation, and I hope the next section behaves itself, I'll show you 2 other ways that the Quran has been divided. Let's just close this. Okay, so here we are again at the online Quran that we've been using. Let's move the cover away, and remember that there are about 600 pages in this online Quran. I haven't shown all of them here since there isn't enough space on the screen. So all you can see is the beginning page of each of these 30 parts. But as you now know, in this online Quran, there are about 20 pages in each of the parts. So I just want to expand one of those parts to show all the pages of that part, because I can then tell you about another way of dividing up Quran. And I'm going to choose this one here at the back, okay? This is part 30, the very last part of the Quran. Let's just expand that, okay? So this is part 30, or Juz 30, if you prefer, or more correctly, Juz Amma. It is the very last part of the Quran, and I've labeled it in the top corner. This is the whole of part 30, all 30 pages. Here is the first page, and here is the last page. And in between are all the other pages from part 30. Now, I've told you about how Quran is divided into 30 parts. I'm now going to use this one part here to show you about another way to divide up the Quran. Quran is also divided into halves of parts. All the pages on the screen that you can see make up the whole of part 30. And if you split them up, like I've just done, we get that PowerPoint crashes. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so when we split them up, we get this, which is 1/2 of part 30. Okay. I do apologize. I did try to make sure that it wouldn't crash by splitting the presentation up, but okay. So again, that's 1/2 of part 30, and that's also 1/2 of part 30. Now, in Arabic, a half part is called al-hizb. So we can say that this is al-hizb, this is also al-hizb. Not only is Quran divided into parts, it is also divided into halves of parts. Hizb. Hizb is one of the 7 ways of dividing up the Quran. Okay. Now, let's just put all of these things, all these pages back. Okay. Now, do you remember that I said that there is useful information in the margins put there by people to help the reader know where he is currently reading? I drew black lines around the edges of the page. Okay. There's one such very useful piece of information that tells us that this is the end of the first half of the part, and it's called al-nisf. In part 30, al-nisf, which tells you that it's the end of the first half, occurs on that page just there. Now, if I take a closer look at that page, inside of that red box is written al-nisf, the halfway mark of a part. When you're reading Quran Majid and you see that particular sign, you know that you've read half of the part. Okay, al-nisf. It means the end of the first half. So let's put that back. And that's about as much as you need to know about al-hizb, the way to divide up the Quran by halves of parts. Okay, now we've been looking at the left-hand side of the margin. Okay, let's just leave the left-hand side now, and let's look at the right-hand side to see if there's information there that we can make use of. Okay, at this point, I just want to remind ourselves what we've learned so far. The Quran is split into 30 parts, or 30 juz, and into halves of parts, also known in Arabic as al-hizb. What I'm now going to show you is a third way to divide up the Quran. Quran is also divided into quarters of parts. In Arabic, a quarter part is known as a ruba. A ruba is one of the 7 ways of dividing the text of the Quran. Now, like before, let me show you. Seeing will make it clearer. Okay, so we're still with the same pages. I've just separated them out into four quarters. And I'm going to draw a line. Okay. I'm going to draw a line around each of these quarters and then label them. This is the first quarter. because it's from the start. Bum. Okay, so that's the first quarter. Okay, let's give it one more shot. Aha. Okay, that's the second quarter. This is the third quarter, and that's the fourth quarter, the end of that part. Now remember, a quarter part in English is a ruba in Arabic. So we could add Arabic labels as well. We could. Okay. The thing about repeating these things again and again is at least you remember that there are 4 quarters in parts. Okay, so we're just going to go through the labels again to catch up with ourselves. Let's pray that it does work, okay? There. So we could also label these as the first ruba, second ruba, third ruba, and the fourth ruba. Okay, now the screen's looking a bit busy, so let me just take away some of this information so you can focus on the first quarter there. Okay, and I want you to look at a mark. Okay, we're so close to the end of this section. Let me give it one more shot here. Okay. One of the useful bits of information that you find on the sides is something that will tell us the end of the first quarter. And the end of the first quarter in part 30 occurs there, inside that red circle. If I now take your attention to the third quarter, there is another piece of useful information that's marked in the side margin, and that tells us the end of the third quarter. And in part 30, it occurs just there. Okay. Now, let's take a closer look at those pages. And if you look at the bottom page, that red circle there, okay, Aruba is written in the side margin. And that mark tells us that the first quarter ends here. When we're reading and we see that sign, we know we have read 1 full quarter of a part. Now, if we take our eyes up to the other page and look at that mark there, that says that mark there says Al-Thalith, the third quarter. When we see that mark, we know that we've reached the end of the third quarter. Okay, so these 2 marks here tell us that we've read, and the first one, the Ruba sign, tells us we finished the first quarter. The Al-Thalith sign tells us we've ended the third quarter. Okay, so that just about sums up everything I wanted to tell you about the way to divide up the Quran by quarters, the Arubas. Okay, so let's just put everything back into its place as it was, okay, and then we'll put it back in the Grammar Majid in its rightful place, okay. And that concludes the information that I was going to show you about the 3 different ways that the Quran has been divided. And I'll give it a shot with the next section of the presentation, in which I'll summarize all the things that I've been trying to teach you. Okay, so let's close this and open up this. Okay, so let's just pray we get through these 4 slides without any technical hitches. So let me just sum up what I've shown you in the previous 3 sections of the presentation by using a diagram. We have the Quran, and it is divided into 30 parts. Each of those 30 parts can be split into 2 halves. Each of those 30 parts can also be split into 4 quarters. And if you want to use the Arabic, 30 juz, 2 ahsab, because the plural of his is ahsab, and aruba for the quarters. What did we learn about parts? Okay, that there are 30 parts in the whole Quran. The Arabic word for part is al-juz. The plural is ajza. The parts can be referred to by their number. So you can say part 1, part 2, part 14, part 15, part 20, all the way up to part 30. And the same applies if you want to say juz 1, juz 2, and so on. But the parts have Arabic names also, and that's a more appropriate way to to refer to the parts. We learned that the first word, or the first 2 words of a part, give it its name. And those are the things that we sort of learned about parts. We also learned that the name of a part is written at the top of every page of that part in the margin area. What did we learn about halves or hizb? Well, in Arabic, a half is known as al-hizb. The plural is ahsab. There are 2 ahsab in every part, 60 ahsab in the whole Quran. There are useful marks in the margin. One is the al-nisf. It tells you it's the end of the first half. Now, if we think of this box here as a measurement of how much reading we've done, the whole box represents a whole part. Okay, technology is going to let me down there, so I'm going to just let that go, and I'll move on to the next slide, and hopefully it'll work on that one. Okay, so what did we learn about quarters? The Arabic for quarters is aruba. There are 4 aruba in every part, 120 aruba in the whole Quran. There is useful information written in the margins, and if you see the aruba mark, this tells you that you reached the quarter mark of the part. You have read 1 full quarter. If you see the al-thalith mark in the margin, that tells you you've reached the end of 3 quarters. You've read 3 quarters of the part. So let's see if this box... Okay, so I'm going to abandon the box and let me just move on to the next slide. I do apologize. I hope that things are still sinking in. Okay, so what I wanted to now conclude this presentation on was just something for you to think about. I've basically done all that I wanted to set out, all that I've set out to do, which was to tell you about 3 different ways that the Quran is divided: parts or juz, halves of parts or al-hizb, and quarters of parts or aruba. Okay, but I wanted to talk to you about how you are spending your time. All of us are busy, and there's so many things that we have to do, and all the things that we do are important, even when we're relaxing. But just as we can't miss doing our homework, just as we can't miss school, just as we can't miss visiting our grandparents or other relatives, in the same way, we can't miss reading our Quran. So I wanted to talk to you about thinking about how you are spending your time and how you can make some extra time in your day. Okay, now I appreciate that some of you are as young as 6, but some of you are as old as 13. So some of these things will apply more to some of you than others, okay? This was such an important slide. Let me see if I can make it play. Okay, see if you can set the alarm clock half an hour earlier, okay? That can give you an extra half hour in the day. Spend half an hour less on the game station. That would be quite a difficult thing for some of you to do, I know, okay? But half an hour is not much to ask, okay? If you get up half an hour earlier, spend half an hour less there, you've gained an hour already. The computer. What do you actually use your computer for? Is it just for homework? Can you spend less time on it? Make some time there. Phones. What are you doing on your phone? Social media? Do you really need to be going onto social media? Can you cut down on the time there? And this is actually the most important part. When it's dinner, what are you doing when you're waiting for your dinner? Are you sitting there watching TV? Are you playing on your mobile phone? Are you just playing? Have you ever thought that you could maybe possibly help your mum lay the table? Have you ever thought that you could maybe clear up afterwards? Do you tidy up your room? Do you clear away after yourself? Now, I say this because actually your mum's time is really precious. Every bit of help that you can give her, okay, you have to do all of your own things, yes, but every bit of help that you can give her means that she's got just that little bit more time to give to you, to sit down with you, to listen to your sabak, to help you with your sabak, okay? Make it a team effort. Be a friend to your mum, okay? Help her to help you, okay? Okay, so I wanted to end by showing you some verses of the Quran Majid, okay? And I put the references there also. I'll just give you a chance to have a read of the English. Always say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim before you start reciting the Quran. Okay, it says it in the Quran Majid. When somebody is reciting from the Quran, make sure you stay silent and you pay attention to what's being said. Recite it in a melodious way. Make it sound as beautiful as it is. The Quran is easy for you to learn to read. It says so in the Quran. Just as water comes down from the skies in terms of rain, and we can drink water and it keeps us fresh and alive, the same way Allah has given us the Quran Majid and it keeps us also fresh and alive. We have to read it. And the Quran is so powerful. It's just so powerful. The Quran has a message. It's written in Quranic Arabic, a language that most of us don't understand, but the words do have meanings. You can see so from the translation. The Quran gives us guidance and it gives us purpose. And very much we want everyone to make some time to read it and to better themselves. Okay, Jazakumullah for listening to that presentation and bearing with me through all of those technical difficulties. We've now come to the end of the class. It's taken a little bit longer just because I had to redo the slides. So I'm going to now just open up the end dua here. And if I may have a student on the mic.
Yes, N1310.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam, darling. How are you? Alhamdulillah. Yes, Jazakumullah for asking. I am too. Did you enjoy that presentation?
Yes.
You did. Okay. I am sorry that it kept jamming and getting stuck. I practiced and practiced with that and did try to make sure that it wouldn't. But unfortunately, it played out. Okay, sweetheart. So can you recite for me the end dua here? Okay, don't forget the Dawood and the tasbih beforehand.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم. Oh Allah, have mercy on me through the great Quran. واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة.
MashaAllah.
And make it for me the leader, the light, the guidance, and the mercy.
MashaAllah, sweetheart. How old are you?
6.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Very, very nice reciting. And your breath control was amazing. MashaAllah, very nice. Okay, sweetheart, Jazakumullah for reciting the dua. We started the whole class off very, very nicely. We've ended it very nicely. And in between, I tried to do my best with the presentation. And I apologize for having to repeat a lot of the slides. Okay, so with that, I will say Allah Hafiz for today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.